Hey friends, it's Miss Dennis, and I wanted to show you guys how to annotate texts to help you understand them better. So to get started, you're going to need to grab one of these genre question sheets from the front and glue this into the reading section, this first section of your notebook, just on the next available page. You should probably go ahead and pause this video and get that done. Once you have it glued in, I want you to go ahead and label it questions for annotating like I have here so that you'll know what this is for. And then I'm just going to show you how to annotate a text. The reason why we annotate is to help us understand what we're reading better. So particularly for those of us who read something and then we get to like the end of it and we're like, oh my gosh, what did I just read? I can't even remember. Annotating is really powerful for those students, for everyone does that, as a matter of fact, to help us remember what it is that we're reading. So with that being said, I'm going to show you, it's just a few quick steps. Annotation is really easy, at least it should be, and it should yield, better understanding of the text. So whenever you're getting ready to annotate something, you'll grab the article that you're going to read, or the story that you're going to read, and you need to chunk the text. Whenever you chunk the text, you should choose sections of text like 2 to 4 paragraphs long. So I look for lengthier paragraphs, and whenever I do this, I'm just looking for places where I'm going to stop and ask a question and put an annotation out into the margin. And I like to draw my chunks with a marker. So I'm going to go ahead and chunk this text. So this first paragraph is kind of long. It kind of goes with this introduction up here. So I'm just going to draw a line to show that this is my first chunk. I'm going to move my notebook out of the way for a minute because it's messing up my line. Then I see this is a section, so I'm going to turn and see, okay, so because this section ends right here, this would be a good place to chunk, so I'm going to draw a line. And if you decide you want to copy my lines, that's fine, or if you want to do your own lines as you're reading Emmett Till, that's fine too, if you want to make your own chunks. This looks like about a good chunk because, again, I'm looking for any sections of text that are about 2 to 4 paragraphs long. So this is 1, 2, 3 paragraphs. 1, 2, 3 here for this section, so I'll put another chunk here. And then this section, the trial, goes on to the next page, if you can see that. And it's about 4 paragraphs long, so I'm just going to call that one chunk. But for those of you who have a harder time reading, I would go ahead and draw a line down here as well and do another chunk. And then over here, I'm going to do a couple of chunks on this section symbol for civil rights. I'm going to draw a line right there, and then that's the whole article. There's no rule about where you should make your chunks. I like to make them around the subheadings. I think that those are good places normally to stop and do some thinking about what you just read. And then you also want to make sure that you're stopping periodically as you're reading a bigger chunk of text to ask yourself questions. But it doesn't matter how many chunks you have. I would say a good rule of thumb is that on your page you should have anywhere, like a full page like this, you should have at least 2 chunks of text and no more than 5. So on this page I have 1 chunk, here's my second chunk, and here's my third chunk. So I have about the right amount. So anywhere from 2 to 5 chunks of text per major page of text. Then what you do for annotation is you're going to start reading the text. And at the same time, you're also going to pull up your questions for annotating. On questions for annotating, you're going to use the questions that fit whichever genre you're working with. So you're going to have to read your text and figure out, is this fiction or is this nonfiction? Am I reading a story or am I reading something that's true? The only time where that gets kind of blurry, where you might ask questions on both sides, is literary nonfiction. So memoirs, autobiographies, biographies, because these are stories. So they feel like fiction because they're stories of people's lives, but they're also true. So they're nonfiction as well. So whenever you're reading a memoir or an autobiography or a biography, you can use questions from either side. Okay? This Emmett Till passage is nonfiction. I'm going to label it across the top nonfiction. Then I'm also going to step back here and grab a pen real fast so I can do my annotating. Okay. Sorry guys, I got the sniffles, say little allergies. Okay, so what you do is you just start reading. And whenever you get to the line that you drew for each chunk, you're going to stop and you're going to look through these questions. And you're going to ask one of these questions and write the response on the edge over here. So that's pretty simple, right? So since this is nonfiction, I'm only going to pay attention to these questions right here. And I will go ahead and, just for fun, get a sheet of paper and block these other questions out so we're not even bothered by them. No? Paper? Okay. It won't stay. So just pretend like those questions aren't there, because this isn't, see, that doesn't stay. If y'all could only see this setup, guys, like I have Lysol containers. Anyway, this is a big hot mess. I'll have to take a picture of it to show you guys. So anyway, ignore these questions, and we're just going to look at these questions. I'm going to read this first little part, and then I'm going to stop and pick a question, and I haven't pre-prepared this, so this is literally like if I were reading this for the first time myself. So I'm going to read the first section, I'm going to choose a question, and then in the margin next to the line where I drew that chunk, I'm going to write the answer to that question, and that's my annotation, okay? So here we go. Emmett Lewis Till was a 14-year-old African-American boy from Chicago who was lynched in Mississippi after reportedly flirting with a white woman, Carolyn Bryant. Lynching refers to killing someone for an alleged offense with or without a legal trial, and the act is often linked to angry mobs and race. The injustice of his murder inspired many in the civil rights movement. In a book published in 2017, Bryant said she made up her original accusations, sparking further discussion around Till's death and legacy. As you read, note the racial climate of the South in which Emmett Till was killed. As you read, note the racial climate of, oh, thank you, Common Lit, for writing the two. Thank you. Making me look silly. So it's the same sentence twice, y'all. Okay, paragraph 1. Emmett Till grew up in a middle-class, predominantly black neighborhood in Chicago, raised by his mother, Mamie Till. In 1955, he was 14, but because of his stocky, muscular build, everyone who knew him said he looked like an adult. That summer, his great-uncle, Mose Wright, traveled up from Mississippi to Chicago to visit Emmett and his mother. When Wright returned to the South, Emmett begged his mother to let him tag along to visit the rest of the family. She relented, but sent him with a warning. Mississippi is very different from Chicago. Make sure to behave yourself around the white people down there. Emmett agreed he would. Okay? So then I'm going to look at these 3 questions, and I'm going to ask one of them and write the answer over here. So the first question, the big question, is what surprised me. The second question is what does the author think I already know? And the third question is what challenge, changed, or confirmed my thinking? And so each of these questions has a different taste to it. So what surprised me, this is anything that's shocking. What does this author think I already know? These are things that are points of confusion for you, that the author is assuming that you would already know as the reader, but you don't know. And so these are opportunities for you to look up new things, new information, and to expand your learning. And then what challenge, changed, or confirmed my thinking? So if something challenges your thinking, then it is making you rethink what you already believed. So it's kind of like making you re-examine a belief that you already have. If something changes your thinking, then it's making you change your mind about something that you already believe. And if it confirms your thinking, then that means that it is just basically reinforcing whatever it is. Oh, you can't see that, can you? If it's confirmed, then it's reinforcing what it is that you already believe, and it's just, again, making you feel like you're right. And everything that you read should have this impact on your thinking. I want to go with the question, what surprised me? And what really surprised me was whenever it said that he begged his mother to go back to the South, because I'm thinking, why would you want to go back to the South during the 1950s when racism is so prevalent there? So it surprised me, and I'll just put a little note out here, and your note can be in the form of a question. It can be in the form of a statement, anything like that. But you could say something like, I'm shocked that Till wanted to visit the South. That's just a little reflection for me, and that's right here. And then I would go through this very same process all the way through the article. Just reading the section, pausing at my next chunked line, and then asking one of the questions. You can ask the same question again and again. That's okay. I would encourage you to kind of ask some of the different questions, but if you want to stick with what challenge, changed, or confirmed my thinking, like lots of this will probably confirm what you already believe about racism during the 1950s. So you could always say, you know, I agree, or I firmly believe now still that racism was a problem in the 50s. Whatever it is, these are just different ways. And you know what I'm going to do now that I'm doing this video and I'm thinking about it? I need to get you guys some like little sentence starters for responses here, and I think that that will help. So be looking for those as well, just little sentence starters to help you start your annotations. But honestly, boys, friends, like this is not, there's no right or wrong here. I just want you to practice making chunks and then using these questions to help guide your thinking as you're annotating. Because I can tell you this, whenever I annotate, the hardest thing for me is figuring out what is it that I'm supposed to write. I know I need to stop and reflect on what I just read, but what exactly is it that I'm supposed to write? So there's that. I'm getting a little chatty. I realize that now. Last thing I wanted to say is these little, like relented right here has a little number after it. So that is going to connect down to the bottom of your page. These are called footnotes, and lots of times they're explanations and definitions that can help you understand the text better. So if you ever see a footnote, be sure to come down here and check it out. So again, whenever you annotate, you start by making chunks, anywhere from 3 to 5 chunks on a page, depending on how much text is on the page. And then you read, pausing at every line to ask a question, depending on which genre you are reading. So that's it for this annotation tutorial, quick tutorial on how to annotate. If you do have any questions, please let me know. I'll be happy to help, or shoot me an email if I'm not in class, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks, guys.